Hello. I'm going to do a very quick overview of my tactician buff stacker. I say my, but this is Rutu's build. I was kind of considering what to reroll into. This is my fourth build of the league, and I wanted a build that was kind of good at everything, really. So it was fast, good single target damage, great clear, and not too squishy. And I think this build checks all the boxes. I'm going to give you a very brief overview of what I've done with it, what I think of it, and everything like that. So, brief explanation that the build revolves around this ascendancy node, which states that our spirit buffs have 50% less reservation. This gives us access to using really nice multipliers like Rage, which we normally don't really get access to as a crossbow build, and Trinity as well. So using that, we deal absurd amounts of damage, and we also pair this with the projectile damage build's pin, which effectively stuns bosses before you actually stun or freeze them. So it's a lot of CC as well. What this leads to is a build that has really nice clear, and for clear we use galvanic shards. This is a really nice skill that you can just run and gun with, and we put fork and it inherently chains, so it just kind of blows up the entire screen. We combine that with Herald of Thunder for clear. As you know, Herald of Thunder does really nice stuff for clear, but we also pair it with the armor explosion tech. We get armor explosions from Rite of Passage Wolf, which gives us the ability to break armor, and this leads to some fantastic explosions for clear. You will definitely notice it when it procs. So that's the clear setup. It's really buttery smooth, and then for the single target setup we have Stormblast bolts. This is kind of like a skill that we have to detonate. We shoot these bolts and you pre-fire them while the boss is doing sort of its roleplay animation, and then as it sort of finishes that, you can dodge roll and your Mirage Archer will shoot at these bolts and detonate them. If the boss does not instantly die, and it usually does, but if it does not instantly die, it will build pin very quickly, as I mentioned in the Ascendancy overview. So what you can do is you can continuously fire these bolts while your Mirage Archer continuously detonates them while the boss is pinned. So if it doesn't instantly die, it will be dead very soon, and it won't do anything. So it's very safe. So yeah, that's just briefly how the build works. Let me do a gear overview. I have one of these crossbows that I crafted. This is a double LE damage crossbow with increased elemental damage with attacks. You can do the method that Rue suggests in his guide, where you fracture one of your prefixes and then you fix the other two prefixes. Fundamentally, the craft requires you to fix all your prefixes, and then the suffixes are more or less deterministic. So you can do it that way. I just bought a crossbow with good prefixes and bad suffixes, because that's all I needed, right? Good prefixes, and then you fix the suffixes yourself. If you can buy one for cheap, I recommend it, because chaos is quite expensive. If you don't want to do the craft and or you don't have enough money to, I probably wouldn't go for it before 100 divines, because rolling the crit chance can be an expensive process. So I would say that that's minimum. You can use double vision. I was a little bit skeptical about this, because this is a unique that actually no one uses, so I thought it was really that it would be quite bad. But as it turns out, the build works really well with double vision. This is what Rue suggests, and I was really impressed with it. I only swapped off of double vision when I started doing 200% delirious maps. I think if you're doing content that isn't as difficult as that, then I would probably just move on, or I would just continue using this basically, because it's a lot cheaper, right? You could get this for I don't even know how much I paid for this, right? Less than a divine. I'm not exactly sure. So yeah. Okay. So rest of gear is very simple. Alpha's Hell for lots of spirit, Warrior Invictus for spirit, res, max life. I do think you want all three of these mods. They aren't that expensive. 4 sockets is fine though, so don't worry about the fifth. You can get one of these boots like this, just as much move speed as you can get, res, max life as you please. Painter Servant mandatory, so you can split your elemental damage and convert properly for Trinity. I forgot to get a 2-socket version of this. I'll do that after the video, but yeah. My amulet is very simple. I have +3 prods. That's the only mandatory part of your amulet, and I just stack a lot of rarity. You'll notice I don't have spirit, and that's because spirit kind of gets solved with the Alpha's Howl plus the Warrior Invictus. In principle, for a late version, you can roll spirit on your amulet, but in order to properly be able to drop Alpha's Howl, you need to get spirit on this Against the Darkness. You can see this Against the Darkness for me has Gain As and Chaos Res, so you need to have spirit on this. The combination leads to being quite expensive, because you need to craft this amulet and have the Against the Darkness, and honestly, I just decided that I wasn't really willing to put that much money into it. I'd rather save up for other upgrades like my Garukans. So yeah, Rings, very simple, just lots of flat damage. Max life if you can hit it. Resistance is rarity. Just kind of the normal stock standard stuff. And then for belt, this is a good place to do a Mage Blood versus Headhunter quick comparison. So I guess we'll go just by how I think you should make the decision. If you have tried both and you have a preference, just go with the one that you prefer. So if you've tried Headhunter and you like Headhunter, play it. If you hate Shroudwalker, for example, just go with your Mage Blood, right? And if you hate Headhunter and you can't afford a Mage Blood, use an Ingenuity. It will increase your flat damage from the rings and some of your rarity and max life or whatever you have on these rings. This is more noticeable when you have double vision, but still, it's relevant otherwise, right? The damage is always relevant. So, yeah. If you have not tried either one of them, buy your Headhunter, use it to farm up stuff, and then buy your Mage Blood, and then sell your Headhunter, decide which one you like more, and then stick with it. And then lastly, if you've tried both and you actually just are indifferent, you don't have an opinion on it, I recommend Headhunter. The reason I recommend it is that Mage Blood provides a lot of utility for basically gearing up your character and fixing a lot of holes. And then I guess in the late game, it allows you to roll just a lot of crit, so it's good for damage, certainly. But I find the fact that Headhunter has so many attributes on it just extremely convenient. It eases quite a lot of your suffix pressure. Because, we do have to use quite a few uniques, right? So these two uniques. So it eases quite a lot of suffix pressure. The build is quite attribute heavy, as you'll notice over here. You need a lot of strength and a lot of dex in order to be able to make your crossbow skills work, and then you need the intelligence for Trinity as well. So the fact that you get so many attributes on here is actually really underrated, I think. And then obviously, Headhunter is just broken, right? The effect itself is just absurd amounts of damage in maps, and lets you just turn really difficult content into really easy content. I, of course, use the word difficult quite sparingly, but you know what I mean. Yeah. The one thing I'll note about this is that you have Trinity, and Trinity, you need to deal equal parts damage in order to build your resonance for Trinity. Just the quick thing is that Headhunter gives you a lot of gain damage as extra elemental from rare monster mods, and that kind of messes up how many stacks of the resonance that you actually get. So you're not going to be at 300 stacks basically when you have a Headhunter. It's just not. It's very unlikely to happen basically. However, the damage that you just get from the Headhunter mods more than offsets this, right? So I would not worry about having your Trinity fully stacked up. You have a Headhunter, you're just going to be blasting anyways. It really doesn't matter. So yeah, long-winded explanation to say do whatever you want. I prefer Headhunter. I think that's kind of it for the build. I think I've covered most things. I'll leave the mobilytics that I followed. This is poe2's build again. I'll leave the mobilytics. It has detailed descriptions for everything, and I'll leave a link to my PoE Ninja in case you need to use it as reference. But overall, I highly recommend the build. It has great clear, excellent single target, and also forgot to show this a bit earlier, but while you're moving around, 64% move speed is really not bad. And you can scale that a little bit further depending on what choices you want to make with your passive tree, right? So there's extra move speed that you can grab over here quite easily, and yeah, just overall, just a blast to play. Highly recommend. Yeah, that's kind of it. See you whenever I do one of these next.